live. So let me go turn on the lights. um, no one's here yet, so it doesn't matter. Except for people watching this on replay. Oy. Tell me if the fan is a problem, though, for the people who come into the chat room. If you're watching this on replay, grab my trusty water. And so, what is the topic? Superhero films. Again, yes. Um, Superhero films coming out right now don't look too promising. Starting uh, with the Thunderbolts. Um, I've heard some people praise it because of its tackling of mental health issues, but that in itself isn't going to make it a good movie, especially when you tackle something as serious as mental health issues, but then you have the trademark Marvel Studios humor intermingled into the movie. That just kind of messes things up. Like, if you don't go for like a serious subject, make it serious. Don't put that goofy Marvel humor in it. It's just lazy writing, and it shows like they can't handle serious subjects like the Thor: Love and Thunder is a perfect example. That was dealing with some heavy issues, and they just completely turned it into a clown show. Like, here you have a guy who's a god, but he's lost everything uh, in his life except for his girlfriend. Now he's losing her. Like, he lost his entire world. He lost his family. Um, at one point, he had even lost his powers. Right. um, then he loses Mjolnir. Now his girlfriend dies. And they just make except for like the parts with like Christian Bale's character, uh, like it was just like two different tones in the movie. Like every time it showed Christian Bale, it got really serious. Then when it switched back to Thor, it got goofy again. It was tonally like tonally it was just all over the place. And for some reason, Mjolnir became a jealous girlfriend sort of thing. Like that didn't make any sense. So if people just coming into the chat room, hello, talking about super films, superhero films coming out this summer don't seem too promising. And we're starting with the Thunderbolts. It's sort of like the beginning of this season since it's May, and I believe it came out last Friday. By the way, let me change the chat filter before I forget. Okay, that way I can see everything. Um, just had some pepper steak, my little fake Chinese from the store. Um, but yeah, like the Thunderbolts asterisk doesn't look too promising. The reason it's an asterisk is because the name of the group, the Thunderbolts, is going to change. And for those who don't want any spoilers, um, there's not going to be a lot of spoilers except for like one or two. One of them is that again, you should already know that the fact they put Thunderbolts with an asterisk by it means they're not going to. That's not the name the group is going to keep. And if you've read the comics, you know that's not the name they keep. In the comics, the Thunderbolts become the Mighty Avengers, right? Um, and in the at the end of the Thunderbolts film, they become the new Avengers, and they play it for laughs at the end because people who saw Captain America: Brave New World know that uh, Sam Wilson was gonna bring back the Avengers group, and so now, so now he wants to sue the 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 Thunderbolts for copyright infringement or whatever, I guess, because he was going to form a new Avengers group, and they've already rebranded themselves the New Avengers. So, so anyway, so the other movies that's slated to come out this summer, not many, but you're gonna have Fantastic Four: First Steps and Superman. The trailer for Fantastic Four looks good because it shows it's like they're back in the '60s. So both DC Studios and Marvel Studios got competing films coming out around the same time, where they both take their superheroes back to the Silver Age of comics. Okay. Um, for those who don't know, for comic book fans, the Silver Age of comic books is the most lauded era of comic books. Is when it became really zany and sci-fi, um, and they started having all sorts of ideas because after there was some controversy with comic books that after the golden age of comics, there was some criticism by some Freudian psychoanalysts who claimed that comic books was leading to degeneracy in young people, and even claiming stupid stuff like the Batman family uh, kind of glorified a homosexual lifestyle between Bruce Wayne and and Dick Grayson, which is completely absurd. Anyone reading the comics knew it was like a father-son relationship, and that Alfred also was a father figure to Bruce. Now, in the golden age of comics, I'm not sure if Alfred had that father figure role in Bruce's life at the time, but he was his manservant, so he served, if not as a mentor back then, but more of I don't know, as a friend and confidant to Bruce Wayne, since not many people knew of his secret identity outside of Dick Grayson. But this guy went ahead and claimed all this wild stuff about comic books. So then he wanted to put a bunch of restraints on comic books, or just see the whole industry die. And so the comics decided to self-regulate themselves with the comic book code of uh, what's it called, the comic book code of a comic book authority code, something like that. So they would monitor what could happen. So they kind of toned down like violence and death in the comic books. And um, when comic books came back during the Silver Age, this is during the '50s, they they leaned more into sci-fi type stuff to explore, and Marvel was like one of those things that really shined during the Silver Age of comic books, starting with the so-called first family of Marvel, the Fantastic Four, where Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, like Stan Lee wanted a comic book of a superhero team where they were a family. They didn't have secret identities, and they didn't wear capes, or so basically, that was the Fantastic Four. Great idea, by the way. And that initial run of the Fantastic Four from the 60s, I believe 1961, is still probably the most beloved era of the Fantastic Four, even though it's like 60 years ago. So, over 60 years ago now. Likewise with Superman, Superman in the Silver Age became way more zany. He could now fly. The original Golden Age Superman didn't fly, by the way. He could jump high. He could jump higher than a the tallest than the Empire State Building or whatever, but he couldn't fly at the time. He learned he they gave him the superpower of flight after the comic book Shazam, well, which was at the time Captain Marvel, was out competing him. So, and then they also sued the makers of Captain Marvel for franchise and for um, for basically plagiarizing the Superman character. And so now, Superman could fly. And then during the Silver Ages, when you had the whole Superman family, you had Crypto, the super dog, you had Supergirl, you had this the bottle city of Kandor. You had all these different versions of Kryptonite come out: red, blue, green, purple, yellow. Um, there was even one notorious, and there was only one because people always like to make fun of this, but there was only one comic book. But in one comic book, there was pink kryptonite, which made Superman gay. And this is in the 60s. I don't know how they got away with that, but yeah, that was crazy. But it was only for one. It was only for one issue, for one comic book issue. That was not a. Uh, that did not become canon. The whole pink kryptonite thing, but people like to make fun of that, even though it was, like I said, it was only one comic book issue, and it was not considered canon. But yeah, it was a whole expansive Superman family, just like the Batman family expanded too. He also had his own dog, Ace the Bat Hound, who was like a German Shepherd that they adopted. And so that people wouldn't know the dog's identity, the dog had to have a mask as well. But he's called Ace the Bat Hound. Um, of course, you had Batwoman separate from Batgirl. There was Batwoman first, and there was Batgirl. Batwoman was written initially a love interest of Batman. Then you had Batgirl. And of course, you had Dick Grayson, Alfred, Commissioner Gordon, um, and a bunch of other characters that made up the Bat family. So this all came out the Silver Age. Uh, then you had all this little sci-fi zany stuff like Batman will wear different suits sometimes to do different things. Like the infamous Batman zebra suit that came out of the Silver Age, or the one with the pink polka dots that came out of the Silver Age. And to Kenner's credit, back in the 90s, Kenner started releasing all these different versions of the Batman of Batman with these different with his different suits from the Silver Age, because they literally ran out of ideas. Like Kenner just they weren't even producing like other things from the comic books. They were just producing different variants of Batman and all his different suits. And they took inspiration for the different suits from all the Silver Age comics. So, and you can find some of this stuff still now on eBay, eBay, or you can go to like a toy convention or flea market if you get lucky and see some of these old Kenner Batman toys from the 90s. They were all horrible to me. I liked it. The only version I liked was the Toy Biz 1989 movie Batman, where they molded him to look like Michael Keaton in the movie. Um, but then Toy Biz lost its license and for from DC, so they went on to make Marvel instead. And Kenner uh, went to making the Batman and other DC superheroes. Um, Anywho, getting back to the topic, so a lot of these zany sci-fi things came out of the Silver Age. Plus, the Silver Age just had really, it just had some interesting storytelling. It wasn't as it wasn't as like serious as the Golden Age, where it was more there was more violence and death. They took a lot of the violence and death out of the Silver Age comics and then instead replaced it with a lot of sci-fi stories of them going to different worlds and going back in time and expanding like the gallery of villains as well as all the different friends and extended family of those superheroes like Batman and Superman, especially. And so in the '60s, that was for in comic books that was more or less the Marvel era, and they set themselves apart from DC with their Silver Age stuff with the so-called Marvel realism. At the time in the '60s, they decided to go against the comic code of authority and start making more realistic stories for their superheroes, and this was called the Bronze Age of comic books. Um, and this started, uh, I would say, in the early to mid '60s. So the whole Bronze Age of comics started with that, and then DC Comics rejected the comic code authority too and started making more realistic stories, like a story where like the Green Arrow and uh, it sounds goofy, but it's real. But like the Green Arrow and the Green Lantern went on an an adventure, just going across, exploring the country, the entire the entire United States of America, and exploring things like drug addiction and all this sort of stuff. Like Green Arrow's sidekick, Speedy, became a heroin junkie at one point or something like that. I think it was like heroin, which is that was pretty unforeseen in the comic book at that time. But in any case, is that my door? Mm, no, never mind. Someone got the door. So anyway, um, so anyway, they said they're harking back to the Silver Age, but they might be more accurately harking back to the Bronze Age because the Bronze Age started mid early mid '60s, whereas the Silver Age started early mid '50s. I think it's kind of a combination of both eras, but um, what's up, Moonlit? He said Shoppy too. Okay. What's up, Jr. Um, but where was that? So I think people are confusing eras. 'Cause I think a lot of people forget there's a Bronze Age of comics. They just remember the Golden Age and the Silver Age. There's also the Bronze Age and the Modern Age. We're still in the Modern Age, which is crazy because the Modern Age started back in the '80s and we're still in it 40 years later. So, anywho, um, some argue we're in the postmodern age of comics, but that's a story for another day. But anywho, these two movies are problematic. So it's like Marvel wants to have their nostalgic Silver Age era of comics, but then they also want to introduce modern sensibilities into these films. Like you can't do both. Like if you're gonna go '60s, go all the way '60s. Don't introduce modern stuff for the so-called modern audience. By the way, the modern audience doesn't really exist. What they call the modern audience are a bunch of left-wing critics who don't even consume this sort of media in the first place. But pushing that aside for a second, so it looks promising because like I like the color palette of the movie for Fantastic Four. They get um, I I don't like how small the thing is. Pause. But they get his likeness correctly. Like that's how he looked in the original comics. But I don't know why they made him a smaller person than he is in the comics. He's a little larger than that. Again, pause. Um, but and then so everything looks good, but then you find out more about what's going on in the movie. First of all, stop putting Pedro Pascal in every single thing. Like he's in Star Wars, he's in DC, he's in Marvel, he's in The Last of Us, so he's in the video games. He's in Game of Thrones. Like, stop putting him in everything. He doesn't fit everything. When he played Maxwell Lord, um, in Wonder Woman, he was horrible. Um, the only two things I liked him in so far has been Game of Thrones and The Mandalorian. I haven't watched Last of Us because I'm not a video game person, so I don't care about video game films. Um, but he doesn't fit the look of Mr. Fantastic. Like he's a beta version of Mr. Fantastic. And it makes sense now because you find out more that they want to actually center the story more around Sue Storm, which is just Marvel Studios doing the whole MCU thing again. Like she was not the center of the story. Like the story was all four of them as a family, obviously, but the most important character was probably Mr. Fantastic. He's the um in Marvel up until again recently because of the modern audience, Mr. Fantastic was the smartest person in the world. And Hank Pym was like the second smartest person in the world because Hank Pym was the scientist supreme, right? Um, Actually, no, 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 I'll take that back. Mr. Fantastic was the smartest person, and then his nemesis, Doctor Doom, was the second smartest. Then it was Hank Pym, who was the scientist supreme. Then Tony Stark, of course. Um, but they've changed that because of again modern audiences. Um, but I'm gonna stick to how it was in the original comics. I don't care about all these little DEI superheroes they've added over time, like Ironheart, who Riri, whatever her name is, who's gonna they're gonna have a Marvel's TV show about her. Um, Allegedly, the show was done 2 years ago. They just didn't know how to market it, so it's not coming out until later this year or early next year, something like that. They've been pushing it back consistently. It was supposed to come out in like 2023. But anyway, um, aside from people like these little DEI characters like Riri Williams and whatever, so Mr. Fantastic not only is he the smartest person in the world, he's also like well cut. Like if you were to make a real life version of what Mr. Fantastic should look like, he would look more like John Hamm from um Mad Men. Like he looks like what Mr. Fantastic would look like. Now the woman they have playing Sue Storm, she looks good. She looks like she could play the character. Uh, but again, the story shouldn't center around her being a girl boss. I don't know why they're doing that, but it's like you can't stop Marvel Studios from this woke bullshit, even though it's been hurting their movies for the past 6 years. Um, then if that's not worse enough, they decide to make a female Silver Surfer, and so all these people who don't even read comics and don't even like the Fantastic Four have went to like these little wiki sites and was like, well, actually, Shia LaBeouf was the Silver Surfer in an alternate universe. Yes, we know that, but it was only a few issues of that comic book. That was not like a long-standing thing. That was just like an alternate universe where Norrin Rad's girlfriend, Norrin Rad being the original Silver Surfer, his girlfriend Shia LaBeouf in this alternate universe is now the one who's Silver Surfer. Now people are trying to say, well, yeah, that's because in the MCU the Fantastic Four come from an alternate universe. I'm like, yeah, but you can't have it both ways. Um, if the if if in the MCU timeline, like where they are in most of their movies, is the sacred timeline or Earth 616 or whatever they want to call it now. If that's the sacred timeline and they're from an alternate universe, but it's basically just a version of this of 1960s Earth, but like a more sci-fi version of 1960s Earth. That's like in the original comic run. That's cool, but then why introduce a this new version of Silver Surfer instead of just introducing Norrin Rad so they, why not get the character correct since they messed it up in the early 2000s? On top of that, why does the CGI look worse than the one back in 2005? What was it? 2005, 2007? Why does the why does the CGI actually look worse? Like they've had almost 20 years to work on like computer graphic um animation. Like why does it look worse? And she's so tiny. Like the actress herself, I have nothing against the actress. No one should ever blame the actors and actresses for a mediocre movie unless they're just bad at acting. But it, or they sabotage the movie like Rachel Zegler did with Snow White. She sabotaged the movie with because she couldn't shut up. Um, Aside from that, again, it, I think you shouldn't get mad at the actors and actresses. You shouldn't be sitting there sending them, unaliving threats or um, trolling them online. They had enough. They're not the decision makers. But she does not. It just looks horrible. Like the CGI for her Silver Surfer character looks horrible. And on top of that, like why use her if you're trying to make a if you're trying to hark back to the 1960s Fantastic Four, in that alternate universe where she existed in the comic books, that wasn't the original 1960s run of the Fantastic Four. So why not just go with the how everything was in the original 1960s run with Norrin Rad being Silver Surfer, Galactus, Fantastic Four. Um, I do like they got Galactus right as well too. Like he actually looks like Galactus now. One of the worst things from the original 2000s film was how they made Galactus into this big cosmic fart. Like what the hell was that? um, but yeah, that was whack, right? And then they did the same thing in the Green Lantern with the I forgot the name of the bad guy. Um, but yeah, he was also a big cosmic fart. Like really? Like that's but in any case, they got Galactus right. And now they want to change. Not only do they want to make Sue Storm now the girl boss of the team, Johnny Storm, her brother, now is like, and they're going to emasculate him. The original character was like he was a teenage hothead and a womanizer, and we saw that in the 2000s run with Chris Evans playing him, and we got to see him play him one more time in Deadpool versus Deadpool and Wolverine, playing Johnny Storm. He was always like this shit talking, hot headed, womanizing guy. That was part of his charm, which was something that would have been attractive to a lot of women at the time. Probably still now, even if they won't admit it. But now they said they wanted to make him more put have a more modern take on Johnny Storm. So he's not going to be a womanizer, and he's going to be more in touch with I don't know his feelings or something. It's whack as hell. Oh, I missed a whole bunch of messages, guys. I'm sorry. Let me get to all of these. Sorry that I missed all these. I didn't see them coming in. Pause. Mm-mm-mm. Carlton says peace. What's going on? Moon says Marvel doing both, so they messed up. Melissa, he died in Game of Thrones, but it was awesome. Yeah. No, it's just he's in everything, and he doesn't fit every character that he's been picked to do. Like he didn't fit playing Maxwell Lord, and I don't like him playing Mr. Fantastic, and he still has his little bushy ass Mexican mustache. Mr. Fantastic does not have a fucking mustache. Like, ugh. Like like if he shaved it for the Wonder Woman role, why can't he shave it for Mr. for Fantastic Four? So yes, he plays Mandalorian too. Carlin says the Thing was smart too. Yeah, yeah, the Thing wasn't dumb, but he wasn't he wasn't known he wasn't known to be smart as the smartest people in Marvel. He was smart for like he was like above average smart, like but he wasn't known to be like an intellectual person in Marvel. Thing was never known to be an intellectual. Like I said, that was clearly Mr. Fantastic, who's the smartest person in the world. Doctor Doom, who's like almost, who's arguably as smart as him, but usually is ranked number second. Hank Pym, who was regarded as the scientist supreme, so almost as smart. Um, Tony Stark as well because of his genius. Black Panther, of course. Peter Parker, um, and some other characters. But yeah, the Thing wasn't known to be an intellectual. He wasn't dumb, but he wasn't known to be an intellectual. Well, this is Jim Halpert from The Office, Mr. Fantastic. Yeah, you're talking about John Krasinski. He was an okay Mr. Fantastic, but I don't like how he got bodied in the um, Doctor Strange movie. Plus, I don't like that. I didn't like his suit. Like frankly, people are getting tired of the suits with all the lines in it, which is a reason why people don't like the Superman outfit. I'm gonna get to Superman in a second. I'm first gonna cook on Fantastic Four, then I'm gonna switch over to Superman 4. I mean, sorry, the Superman film coming. And while, like I said, all these movies together seem like they're not going to be very promising, like none of them, honestly, I see myself going to the theater to go see. What's up, GJC? Melissa, Storm is overpowered Omega level. I don't think so. I mean, a lot of the you gotta remember the X-Men were the premier superhero team of Marvel for the longest time. Like the Avengers only became important because of the movies. Before the movies, the X-Men were always the premier superhero team of Marvel Comics, as Justice League was the premier superhero team of DC Comics. But a, a lot of superheroes over time have had their powers ratcheted up. So yes, she's Omega level mutant. I believe Iceman is Omega level. Uh, Jean Grey, and a few others. GG says, "I thought these woke remakes were done now. No, they're still doing. They're still going. Like it's clearly woke. Like I said, Sue Storm is going to be a girl boss, and the Silver Surfer is now a girl, who's who in the main Earth 616 continuity, she was the girlfriend of Norrin Red, the original Silver Surfer. There have been other Silver Surfers in the Earth 616 continuity, but when Shala Ball became Silver Surfer, that was in an alternative universe, alternate universe, not the 616. Well, no, Stark is not going to be Doctor Doom. He's going to be Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom isn't going to be his title. Doctor Doom is going to be who he is. But I think how they're going to explain it is that he's going to be a variant of Tony Stark from another universe, but he is going to be Victor Von Doom. He's not. He's not Tony Stark. I think we talked about this before. He's not Tony Stark. He's going to be Victor Von Doom, but they're going to somehow make him from another universe so that he is a variant of Tony Stark. The sort of the Russell brothers already addressed this. They said they are gonna they said they're going to address the fact that he obviously looks like Tony Stark in the in the movie. So like I said, I'm assuming uh Victor Von Doom is a variant of Tony Stark from another universe. Which, by the way, one of the Easter eggs in the post-credit scene of Thunderbolts is they see a Fantastic Four ship arrive to their at the end, but whatever. Uh, J.A.C says, I hate when they recast actors in the MCU like Stark to Doom. On the other hand, Human Torch to Captain America was good. But those weren't the same two universes. That was Fox. That wasn't Marvel Studios. That was 21st Century Fox. So it wasn't the same thing. It was like it would be like someone going from DC to Marvel because even though they were this is this is what casual fans don't understand. 20 what 21st Century Fox films did and what Marvel Studios did were two different things. Marvel Studios didn't have the licensing rights to those characters in the 21st Century Fox films until Disney bought them out. Then Marvel Studios could then play with those characters. But until then, that was a completely separate cinematic universe with the the X Men and with the Fantastic Four. Likewise, with Spider Man, he didn't belong to Marvel Studios either. He belonged to Sony. He actually still belongs to Sony, but Sony and Marvel Studios have a partnership to share Spider Man. Um, he said Cosmic Fart, yeah. Beast from X Men, yeah. So they showed Beast from X Men in the last um, Captain Marvel film, The Marvels, where um, what's her name, the black character went into an alternate universe where there's Beast, and we're assuming that's the universe in which the X Men from the Fox films takes place. DJ says Professor X. I said, oh, we nerds. Jesus said Cable's an underrated intellectual. Nah, not really. We can't call everyone intellectuals. We're talking about intellectuals on a superhero level. Like I said, the intellectuals are people like Mr. Fantastic, Doctor Doom, Hank Pym, Tony Stark, Peter Parker, um, Bruce Banner, um, people people like that. Now, a lot of these characters are smart, but they're not. They don't have genius level intellects on the level of the smartest people in Marvel. But Cable was not known to be like he wasn't dumb at by and of course he wasn't dumb. Neither was Wolverine. Wolverine is actually very clever. If people don't, if people ever read his comics, Wolverine is actually very intelligent. But again, he's not an intellectual on the level of the superheroes like Mr. Fantastic and Hank Pym and Tony Stark and Bruce Banner and Peter Parker and T'Challa. These are like intellectuals. This is why they form the the in what do they call it? The the group that decides everything that goes on with the Earth 616 universe. The kid was amazing. He gets no love. Uh, because they probably just because they don't know how to use him in the movies that well. Outside of Deadpool, like it was hard to figure out how to use him because how do you explain he's the son of Cyclops, who is actually older than him because he comes from the distant because he comes from the an alternative future timeline, and yeah, it's hard to play with that character because it deals with a lot of time travel nonsense. to explain his whereabouts and stuff. Which at least Deadpool 2, to give it credit, like they kind of worked that in pretty well. Was it Cable mastered time travel to save us all, though master sophisticated technology? Uh, kind of, sort of. I mean, but see, y'all hit that like button. He's a DC guy. Yeah, I'm a DC. Well, I guess, but I like Marvel and DC equal. Only, only like, yeah, I don't want to say that. Only some people think you have to choose one or the other. I don't have to choose Marvel over DC. I like them both equally. Now, I have favorite superhero. Like my favorite superhero happens to be from DC, but think I don't like DC over Marvel. I like them equally, but they're for different reasons. Like I like DC because their heroes are like these godlike aspirational heroes. They are heroes to which you aspire, where the Marvel superheroes are like men who become are more like men who become gods. They're more grounded. Like these are superheroes like the average Joe who still has to deal with issues like how I'm going to pay the rent and stuff like that, like Peter Parker, and dealing with girlfriend and wife issues and stuff like that. So you got Marvel realism versus the aspirational heroes of DC. I like them both equally, but who's my favorite hero is Batman. But my second favorite hero is Wolverine. My third favorite is Spider Man. Um, so two out of my three favorite heroes are from Marvel. Carlin says, I think someone gave Cable that time travel tech. Yeah, like I said, from the comics, I don't remember him inventing that time travel tech. I could be wrong. And of course, there's different versions of Cable depending on what retcon we're talking about. But from the original storyline that I remember, he didn't invent that tech to travel to time travel. From what I remember, again, that's not to say he's stupid, but I'm just saying he's not an intellectual. He's nowhere on the level of a Mr. Fantastic or Doctor Doom or Hank Pym. Pym created his own particles. Like he created a whole new element in the universe. That's how smart Hank Pym is. That's why he's considered the scientist supreme. Um, and like I said, Mr. Fantastic is just the smartest person in the world. Then you have Tony Stark and Bruce Banner and Peter Parker and T'Challa. I think T'Challa has like 10 PhDs or something like that. And it was only in the second Pink Panther movie did they acknowledge. Sorry, not Pink Panther. I'm sorry, but as I was, the second Black Panther movie did they acknowledge how smart he was when his sister was doing something and they asked her, where did you learn this? She's like, I learned it from my brother. I'm like, oh, so you finally wait to the end to the second movie to acknowledge that he was actually the smartest person in the kingdom. Like the, because they had to do this girl boss bullshit, but his sister was never smarter than him or more clever making tech. I don't know why they did that. I don't know why Ryan Coogler fed into that black black magic girl boss bullshit, because T'Challa was always the smartest person in Wakanda. I don't know where that whole his sister being smarter than him bullshit came from, but then she acknowledged in the second movie that he was smarter, and he taught her science some of her little science stuff that she knew. Uh, Mullen says, email me so I can send you stuff. You so love since you love DC. GGC says Marvel intellectuals according to some website. Reed Richards, Lunella. Yeah, again, I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm not listening to the new stuff. The Lunella Lafayette, like she's not even in the main content. Like she's only in like these comics just for kids, where she rides around with this little dinosaur. Um, I forgot what they call her. I think her name is Moon Girl or something like that. Moon Girl or something like that, and she rides around with a dinosaur. Like her comic her comic book is just for kids, so I don't really count that. It's just like in DC, Batman is the greatest detective in the world, but there's another character who's not even human, Mr. Chimp, who's literally a chimpanzee detective, who's considered the greatest detective in all of the DC universe. But because he only shows up in like some stuff more geared towards kids, no one really takes that seriously. Like that Mr. Chimp is the greatest detective in the DC multiverse. Like for most part, most people just say no, it's Batman because again, Mr. Chimp is not a consistent character within the DC multiverse. So just like with him, I don't consider Lunetta Lafayette a serious character because like her comic book is geared just towards little kids. Yelena Richards again, no. The I don't care about all this DEI stuff that came out during the 2014 retcon of Marvel Comics called the all new, all different Marvel. All of those comic books flopped. Like all of them flopped, and a lot of them have been scaled back, um, um, because they failed to appeal to readers. But yeah, so it was Ray Richards, Lunetta Lafayette, Valena Richards, Victor Von Doom, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, Hank Pym, Amadeus Cho, Henry McCoy, Peter Parker. So Amadeus Choi was again another was the DEI version of the Hulk. He was a Korean kid who was um, became the Hulk, but he was a smarter version of the Hulk because he could retain his just like Professor Hulk is the variant of the Incredible Hulk that can retain his smartness in Hulk form for Bruce Banner. Amadeus Choi's version of the Hulk maintains his intellect when he turns into the Hulk. He's a DEI Hulk. I don't consider that serious. Henry McCoy, yes, he's definitely in the mix. Peter Parker. I'm surprised they don't put T'Challa because T'Challa is in the top 10 of smartest people in Marvel. But yeah, I don't consider Lunetta because, like I said, the character Moon Girl or whatever, she's just for her comic book is just for little kids, and they even have a cartoon series for her on Disney Plus, and you can tell it's literally just for little kids. Valena Richards, that's the daughter of Frank, of I mean, sorry, of Reed Richards and Sue Richards, nay Sue Storm. That's their daughter, whereas their son Franklin Richards is the most powerful mutant in the Marvel uh, multiverse. Franklin Richards, like he's beyond an Omega level mutant. Like he is on the. I think he is more powerful than the Beyonders. Yeah, I think Franklin Richards, even though he's just a mutant, he's beyond Omega level mutant. Like his powers are like at the level of like the Beyonders, or I think his powers exceed the Beyonders. Like he can, like he's powerful enough to go against like uh the some of the cosmic um cosmic entities in the Marvel multiverse. That's how powerful he is. Well, this is who gave Cable what. So he has time travel tech that he can travel from his alternate dystopian future to the main continuity of the Marvel universe, the 616 Earth. And I think he can travel between universes as well, if I'm not mistaken. But he did not invent that tech, as far as I remember. I could be wrong if someone went to Google that, but I don't believe he invented that tech. They Carter says they tried to dumb down T'Challa. Yeah, they so. not only did they dumb him down, but they made him more milk toast as well. Like he was way more like you probably know this, Carlton, if you read his comics. I have his first appearance in the Fantastic Four because most people don't know his first appearance was actually as a supervillain trying to take down the Fantastic Four, and then he became their buddy. Um, it's not an original copy; it's a facsimile reprint, of course, because I can't afford original copies. um, and even if I could afford them, I probably wouldn't buy them unless it was an investment to sell them later at a higher price. But in any case, T'Challa was more revolutionary when he first came out in the '60s. So he was actually, if the movies were more representative of how he was in the comics, he was actually more like Killmonger. Like he wasn't willing to like body people and just like give away Wakandan tech to like black people all over the world so they could get some get back. But he was more revolutionary than the character was in the movie. Like I said, he was like he was like if you could take Killmonger and dial him down quite a bit, that would have been like the Black Panther in the comic books. And then, like I said, he was a super genius. Like the dude had like, I can't remember how many PhDs he's had. I think he has like 10 PhDs or something. He is super smart. His sister was not smarter than him. I don't know why they did that in the movie, other than they in these movies you always gotta have this little black girl magic bullshit where they gotta be the smartest thing. They always have to outperform the men, the black men in these movies. That's why. Anyway, and she's going to be back in the Doomsday movie too. By the way, J.A.C says Doctor Strange isn't in the conversation. He's smart, but he make so he is definitely one of the intellectual ones, GJC. So I don't want to say he's not smart, but he's not in the top 10. That's what I'm saying. Like if you talking about the top 10, uh, he's not in the top 10, but he is a very powerful character because of his sorcery. So he does make up part of the Illuminati. Like, and I think there was different variations of the Illuminati, but the Illuminati was, like T'Challa, Tony Stark, um, it was T'Challa, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, I believe Hank Pym and Mister Fantastic, and there was one, uh, and there was a run of the Illuminati where they invited Captain America, but they didn't want him there because he was because of his he's Captain America. He's a boy. He's a he has a sense of Boy Scout masculinity, which is why I like him. Um, so I like both the dark heroes and I like the Boy Scout heroes too. The Boy Scout heroes are like people like Spider Man, Captain America, and Superman. Those are your three Boy Scout masculinity type heroes. Whereas you have dark heroes like Wolverine and Batman. So these are my five favorite heroes, by the way. But in any case, um, so Captain America, I think, was put out of the Illuminati because although he was initially invited because of his standing in the Marvel world, he wasn't willing to make those tough decisions to prevent incursions from other universes where they would actually have to decide, well, we're just going to have to destroy this other universe so that this other universe doesn't destroy us, or we'll have to make decisions like we're gonna kick the Hulk off the Earth. This was led to Planet Hulk, the whole World War Hulk and Planet Hulk type stuff, um, which I don't think we're ever going to see in the movies. We're never going to get to see uh, World Breaker Hulk. This is everyone's favorite version of the Hulk we want to see. The Hulk that just can't be fucking stopped. So the Illuminati literally had to kick him off the planet. So these were the decisions Captain America was not cool with. Like he would not. Unless I could be wrong, I don't think in that storyline Captain America went along with them kicking Bruce Banner off the planet. and he ended up landing on the planet Scar. So Carter says, I remember he was whopping on the clan. Yeah, and the funny thing is, it was white Jewish men that they created um, Black Panther. That was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. People don't know, like, he was the first black superhero, but he was created by two Jewish guys, two Jewish guys from New York City. Stanley Lieberman, aka Stanley, and Jack the King of Comics Kirby. But yeah, he was way more revolutionary in the comics than he was in the movies. But they toned him down. J.A.C says Mr. Fantastic is the smartest, and he all he did was make himself stretchy. He kind of saw it, but he didn't assign himself that those powers. Um, and think about it. I mean, yeah, in the comic books that may not be the best superhero power, but think how useful that would be in the real world. Think how many women you would slay with just. I'm just saying. I mean, you could. I mean, just alone, you could probably make millions in porn. I'm definitely calling, and if I did have that ability, I'm definitely naming myself um, Elasti Man. So first of all, because people, Marvel always borrows shit from DC, although they steal ideas from each other. But Elasti Man came before Mr. Fantastic. Just for you guys to know that Elasti Man was the first stretchy superhero. Then came Mr. Fantastic. Then came Plastic Man, who's sort of like a pimp. He was actually Plastic Man. Actually, was originally a criminal who got apprehended by Batman, and he decided to change his ways because Batman believed in him. So Batman's my favorite superhero. But anyway, Elastic Man was the first like stretchy superhero. Um, but to be honest, I wouldn't want any of the Fantastic Four's superpowers. Sue Storm, or Sue Richards now, she becomes invisible, but also she can create force fields with her powers. The Human Torch t- becomes uh, a living fire. And by the way, the Human Torch was a re- was a retcon of the original Torch. The original Human Torch was actually an android in the 1940s, in the old Timely comics before it became Marvel Comics. It was called Timely Comics. The Human Torch was his own superhero, and he wasn't a person. He was an android, from what I remember. Then Stan Lee and Jack Kirby changed the character and made him into a human teenager, which is why there was always a rivalry between him and Peter Parker in the '60s comics. Like they would sometimes fight each other because they were both like they both teenage boys, and they both thought they were the best at what they did, so they sometimes got into fights. The 1960s superheroes were known for fighting each other. You would have Fantastic Four sometimes fighting Spider-Man, the Avengers fighting them, and this is why there's so much love for that '60s era nostalgia of comic books, which is why they're talking about you know, the whole thing with Fantastic Four and Superman. I'm about to jump into Superman because I've spent way too much time on Fantastic Four. Carden says it's the smart sidekick trope. I get it. Carden says you got to be a bad man to get kicked off the planet. Oh yeah, you gotta read that. Well, I think they did a movie on it. I think they did an animated movie. The only thing, Marvel doesn't make good animated films. DC was the best at making animated films. Like the whole run from 2013 to 2021 was the the DC animated universe that started with the Flashpoint paradox and ended with the Justice League uh, Dark Side War, or whatever it was called. just I think it was Justice League Dark Side War, something like that. That was the end of it. And then after that, they made a new DC animated universe called the Tomorrowverse, which was just horrible, and that ended last year. Um, but yeah, Marvel didn't make really good anim. Well, no, their best Marvel's best animated films were actually the anime. So they had J- the Japanese studios make some versions of the Avengers um, storylines, but in anime that was good. So the Marvel anime is way better than the Batman Ninja anime films. The Batman Ninja anime films are shit. I didn't like them, but the Marvel anime is really good. They got the Avengers, they got X-Men. Um, they have one on Tubi I just watched last week with the Punisher and Black Widow. That was good. Um, I think they have one with Iron Man. But yeah, the Marvel anime, that shit is good. That can rival the DC animated universe. But the American made Marvel animated films, don't watch those. They're shit. But yeah, in one of them they do the storyline with World Breaker Hawk. He gets kicked off, like the Illuminati has him sent off the planet to another galaxy. Um I think he's in another galaxy. He might still be in the same galaxy, but I think they sent him to another galaxy just so because he was so destructive, they thought he was going to destroy the Earth. So they kicked him off the planet. That is some shit. But that is the level of what the Illuminati does. Like I said, the Illuminati are the most powerful and elite of the Marvel superheroes. Not necessarily the strongest and the best superheroes, but they're like the most elite as far as like intellectual and power set. Like I said, Doctor Strange because he's the Sorcerer Supreme. I believe Hank Pym because he was the Scientist Supreme at one point. Tony Stark, Mr. Fantastic, T'Challa. I don't believe Thor, since Thor doesn't live on Earth, depending on what version you're talking about, because he had a human counterpart, but they didn't use that in the movies. Thank goodness, that would have been weird, and it would have seemed too Superman like. But anyway, um, Colin says, "Yeah, I met Stanley before. Very cool dude." I was hoping to see him back in 2019, right when he passed away, because he was booked for an appearance in the Philippines at a comic book convention that was put together by um, what's the boxer from the Philippines, guys? He's insanely wealthy over there. Like he's insanely wealthy here in the United States. He's like a multimillionaire here, but over there, in their money, insane. He's he's also a over there. He's also a, um, a senator. He's actually a senator in the Philippines. And he ran for president because people kept telling him for years that he should run for president. So when Duterte stepped down from office back then, he ran for office. Um, didn't make it, but he's still a U.S. senator. I mean, sorry, not a U.S. He's a Philippine senator, and he has his own basketball league in the PBA, the Philippine Basketball Association, the PBA. He has his own basketball team there. He even played for them for one season. But yeah, he threw a comic book convention where they had booked Stan Lee, and then Stan Lee ended up turning it down, and then they had booked the actress who plays what's Captain America's love interest. I forgot her name, but she was supposed to appear there, but then they ended up canceling the comic book convention, and I think she had canceled her appearance there too, because a lot of people don't feel like going all the way to the Philippines. It's a 15-hour flight, and they're probably not going to pay them that much. Carlin said then came Stretch Armstrong. Yeah, I didn't include Stretch Armstrong just because he's not a comic book character, but yeah, you can include him too. But yeah, he's not a comic book character. That's why I didn't mention him. GG says I'm out. Have a good night. All right, thanks, G. Carlton says yeah, Manny Pacquiao. Yeah, yeah. So Manny Pacquiao is a senator there. He's a in their money. He's a billionaire. He's close to billionaire status here. Like he'll probably reach it at some point. Like I say, he ran for president. He has his own basketball team there. Um, he's he's there. Like when his fights when he was still fighting, they used to show that on Philippine local network television. Like here, we would have to watch his fights on pay-per-view. Over there, because he's a national hero, they played his they aired his fights on local TV for people to watch. That's how much of a hero he is there. And people consider his wife a baddie, so she has her own, so she's a supermodel over there. Like she has her own line of cosmetics, and she does a bunch of she has a bunch of what you call it, endorsement endorsement deals. They say he's a nice guy, but that mofo is dangerous. I mean, yeah, but that's like most that's like most professional fighters. Most professional fighters are cool as shit when you meet them, but it's when they're competing, they can turn on that killer instinct. What I like is these professional fighters can turn it on and off, so they know how to. Like that's what you want. That's sort of like that's also the key to a good combat, like a good infantryman or special operators, that they can turn that killer instinct on and off. So so I met some UFC guy while I was in the Philippines at a comic book convention. He was nice as hell, but I've seen him fight. He is brutal. Can't remember his name. Sneak Mouse says W stream. Thank you. He's I'm doing well. I'm not gonna stay on for too long because it's late. But let me switch to Superman, guys. I want to switch gears because I talked a lot about Fantastic Four. Mullah says I'm a DC guy. I look, I have both a Marvel encyclopedia and a DC encyclopedia. I'm only slightly more DC than Marvel just because my favorite superhero happens to be Batman, who is in DC. But like I said, the two out of my three favorite heroes are Marvel, Wolverine and Spider-Man. Like my very first comic book was Spider Ham, which was like the anthropomorphic pig version of Peter Parker, who's named Peter Porker. So in another universe, in another universe of the Marvel multiverse, all the Marvel superheroes are anthropomorphic animals, right? And so you have Peter Porker. Like if you guys watched Into the Spider Verse with Miles Morales, they showed Peter Porker. So that was like the first comic book I used to read. That and this other comic book called not he I think it was like Top Dog or something like that. I don't know if that character even still exists, but those were the two things I used to read. And then like I got into Spider-Man from the earliest because when I was little, there was the amazing Spider-Man and Friends TV show that came out in like 1981. And then there was the Super Friends that came out in like the 69 and then came back out in 77, like right, when I was a when I was born. So I was both Marvel and DC from the beginning because I had Super Friends on one end, and then I had Amazing. Then there was the Amazing Spider-Man and Friends, and Incredible Hulk hour. So the first half an hour was amazing. It was Spider-Man with his two friends, Iceman and Fire. What was her name? Firestar, whatever her name was. And then the other half was Incredible Hulk. And then what I didn't know, Carlton, was there was two Spider-Man comics on at the same time in 1981. There was one on NBC and there was one on ABC. No. Sorry, I think one was on ABC and the other one was on CBS. So there was another Spider-Man animated film TV show. They both aired in 1981, and then I think the Amazing Spider-Man and Friends lasted longer than the other one. The other one only lasted for a season, but the Amazing Spider-Man and Friends lasted like I think 3 seasons or 2 seasons. And like I said, the Super Friends lasted up until like '84, and they just had different versions of the original Super Friends came out in '69, and then they retcon they I guess they retconned it and it came back out in like '77 or '76 or something like that. And then they retconned it again in like the '80s, like 2 times. Um, so yeah, I was Marvel and DC from the beginning. I didn't have a favorite between them. But like I said, now as I got older, my favorite superhero became Batman, but it was also like Spider Man as well. Then Wolverine because of the X Men TV show, both because of the X Men TV show, and a friend had let me read his X Men graphic novel. We had like traded graphic novels. I gave him my Batman graphic novel, which was Son of the Demon, which was the alternate timeline where they first introduced Damian Wayne as a newborn baby um, when Batman married Talia al Ghul, and Ra's al Ghul wanted him to become his successor. Wanted Batman to become his successor for the League of Assassins. Um, but my very first graphic novel was a Batman. It was I mean not the first graphic novel I ever read was Batman. It was Death in the Family. And I was like, wow, this is so grown up. I was like in the fifth grade or sixth grade when I read that. Some friends let me borrow that. I was like, man, this is good. That's when Batman became like my favorite superhero. So I was like, wow, this is really good. And I couldn't believe because I'm like what 10 years old. I couldn't believe there was a comic book where the sidekick got beat to death with a crowbar and then blown up by a bomb. I'm like, damn. uh, Carter says the '90s Spider-Man cartoon came on Fox. I remember Kingpin squeezing Spider-Man and telling him he had a body fat percentage of 2%. Well, yeah, the '90s one. I'm talking about the early '80s one. The '90s one was good too. Like a lot of people love the '90s Spider-Man run because it stuck very closely to the comic books. So yeah, a lot of people like the '90s Spider-Man run. It was really good. Thanks, Sneak Mob. He's a good streamer, guys. Thank you, I appreciate it. But switching gears, I said from Fantastic Four to Superman. So initially, when I saw the Superman trailer, it was awesome because they made crypto. I was like, man, they've never had crypto in a Superman movie before. But they changed this look because in the comics, crypto is sort of like a I don't know, like a Labrador or a golden retriever, whatever it is. But he's white, so he's like either like a sort of like a Labrador or some sort of hound. Whereas, like I said, Batman has a dog too. I wonder if they're going to use that in the Batman movie called The Brave and the Bold. But his dog is a German Shepherd. But anyway, so and I like the guy they got playing Lex Luthor. He actually looks like Lex Luthor. Um, but a lot of people are saying, oh, they don't like his outfit. Oh, thank you, Sneak Mob. He gave me a super chat, guys. Appreciate that, man. Um, but yeah, so a lot of people don't like the Superman because his outfit. Because again, like my criticism of John Krasinski's version of Mister Fantastic in the Doctor Strange, Marvel of Madness um, sequel. All those unnecessary lines in the outfit looks jarring. I get why they do it. They sometimes put a lot of lines in the modern takes on the superhero outfits to break up the coloring more to make it look more realistic. But when you see it in live action, it doesn't come off well. Like the Spider-Man, a lot of people criticize the Spider-Man uniform too because it had all the unnecessary lines in it. And so at the very end of No Way Home, he put on a Spider-Man outfit that looked more like the original without all the lines in it. Because a lot of people don't like all the lines in the uniform. So a lot of people was criticizing the Superman outfit for all the unnecessary lines in it too. Plus, they were saying that it fit him too loosely. It was like it's supposed to be like a tight bodysuit. But I think they're gonna fix that all in like editing or whatever. So people said they didn't like that, but most people loved the trailer though. There was some criticism, but most people loved the trailer. Here's where it gets disturbing or problematic. So what people are now complaining is that there has been a spoiler alert, potential spoiler alert if this is true. But what people are saying is that um, there has been a potential plot leak to Superman where Lex Luthor has hired some sort of evil monkeys to troll Superman online with hashtag super shit. And they're like trolling him, and they got a bunch of people basically like hating on Superman um, by trolling him online. And he actually like either like hired some sort of evil monkeys or turned them into like smart enough that they could like type. And what they were saying is the reason James Gunn did this was he was basically making fun of the critics of his movies, saying they were online trolls, or he turned them in the movie into actual monkeys typing on keyboards, trolling Superman, calling him hashtag super shit. I hope that's not true. um, I missed some comments here. Yeshua says you need to get some sleep, brother. You're acting like a schizo. No, I'm not. I know what schizophrenia is, and that's not. I'm not displaying any sort of schizotypical types of behavior. You need to suck a dick. How about that? Yeah. He's saying I'm talking about irrelevant shit. Listen, Yeshua, you stupid faggot. The title of my live stream is literally superhero films and why they don't seem promising. If you had an IQ of at least 90, you probably would have saw the fucking title of the live stream, knowing that that is the purpose of this very live stream is to talk about superhero films. You dumb piece of shit. Get the fuck off my channel. Don't ever fucking come back. How about that? Faggot. Anyway, Carter says there are a bunch of monkeys on Twitter right now. He said Gunn could have hired them for the movie. Again, that's what I'm saying. So Gunn is doing that on purpose to actually like he's trolling the trolls. But like I'm saying, making that a part of the plot, I'm not sure if that's a good idea. And what's scary is the people who leak this potential spoiler for the movie have been accurate before about other movie plot leaks. So so people are scared that he's doing that. Also, there's another potential spoiler is that he makes a he in the movie he makes a joke that makes fun of Snyder fans. I'm like, oh, that's dangerous. You should, the people who love Zack Snyder, the Zack Snyder DC films, they are very cultish. Like, remember they trolled the DCEU for so long that they actually went along and made the Snyder cut of the Justice League. I was like, that's not good because if the movie doesn't do well, the that snipe at the Snyder fans, that's not gonna go too well. They're gonna be like, haha, that's why Man of Steel was better. That's what's gonna happen. Like if he makes fun of Snyder fans and then Superman ends up not doing well, they're gonna they're gonna make fun of the film and James Gunn and say Zack Snyder's Superman was better. And he right now James Gunn is in a more precarious position than Marvel Studios is Kevin Feige, because James Gunn and uh, his co-executive Peter Safran, they are responsible for basically revitalizing the DC film franchise, and Superman is their first film in doing so. Like, yeah, there was like Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2 and um, those films, but those were still part of the old DCEU. It's just that they had to; those movies were already made, so they just had to go on and release them, even though they weren't going to be a part of the new DC universe. But he has a lot riding on Superman. So if Superman doesn't well, it might just kill all the impetus for the DC universe going forward, because he still has the Brave and the Bold coming out, which is going to be Batman, with Damian Wayne being his Robin in this movie. They scrapped one film already, Swamp Thing. They're not going to do that. Um, and they got some shows coming on Max, the Green Lantern Corps, where it's going to be like like a a buddy cop team up sort of movie, sort of like like Beverly Hills Cop or something like that, but it's going to be with um, Hal Jordan and with Jon Stewart playing the Green Lanterns of Earth, where they're going to be like basically partners. I'm I'm actually looking forward to that. I want to see how that goes. I will watch that, and I think that's not going to be in the movies. I think that's going to be a series on the Max streaming platform. But I do want to see that. That might be good. But again, for the DC universe, you have to get the two biggest superheroes correct. You have to get Superman right, and you have to get Batman right, because if you don't get those right, people aren't going to care about the lesser known superheroes. You have to get them. This is what I was explaining to a friend 2 days ago. Like, he was like, I don't even care about Superman and Batman, man. He said there's been plenty of films with them. I was like, yes. I was like, but bro, what you're not getting is they are the main heroes of the entire DC multiverse. If you don't get them right, most casual fans aren't going to tune in for the lesser known heroes, because right after Superman comes out this year, I think Supergirl is coming out the year after, and it's played by the girl who played the younger version of Rhaenyra Targaryen in House of the Dragon. She was cute. Millie, I think her name is Millie something. She was hot. Like, the older version of Rhaenyra is ugly, but the younger version of Rhaenyra, she was hot. So she's playing Supergirl. She looks like her too. I'm like, oh man. Um, but yeah, how many people are going to care for Supergirl if Superman flops? So he has a lot riding on this. So that's why a lot of people are worried about this plot leak. I'm like, if that's true, that's going to make the movie kind of, it might mess up the film. And I don't know, like, because I was actually tempted to go see Superman in the theaters, which is a big investment for me, because superhero movies have become so mediocre over the past 6 years. I have been less invested in going to see movies. Like, I can, like, since since Endgame, I can count the number of superhero films I went to go see in the movies on one hand. Um, Joker. Um, well, yeah. So Far From Home, which came out right after Endgame. Joker. Um, Into the Spider Verse. Uh, if that can count because it's animated. Well, I'm gonna count it anyway. Um, Spider-Man: No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine. I was going to see the Batman in the movies, but then I decided last minute I didn't want to go because I was like, I'm not sure. So I watched it first on a I pirated it first. Arr. So I watched the pirated version of it first on my Fire Stick, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna go see it because there's been times where I've watched something pirated, and then I was like, all right, this is good enough to go see in the theater. So then I wanted to go see it in the theaters. I did that with Spider-Man: No Way Home. I watched a pirated version on my Fire Stick before going to see it in the theaters because I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it or not. But those are the five superhero films I've seen in the last 6 years in the theaters. I've seen everything else I've watched either on Disney Plus, um, or or a pirated version. And like I was saying, after the Superman trailer came out, I was like, all right, I might actually go see this in the movies. But now, if that plot leak is real, I might wait and watch it on my Fire Stick. I'm not sure if I want to go see it in the movies now because I would be mad because a lot of people are saying there's too much comedic elements in it, and a lot of people are skeptical about James Gunn because they think he can only do team up films. Like no one has seen him do like a film where it's like a solo superhero. Like he did Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 2, and 3, and the holiday special on Disney Plus, and he did the Suicide Squad, the reboot of the Suicide Squad. And so those were all team up films. Um, and a lot of people are skeptical that he can do a solo superhero. Because even in a Superman, there's other superheroes in it. You have Hawk Girl and you have Mr. Terrific. I wasn't mad about that just because they never get the the uh the Green Arrow TV show on the CW messed up Mr. Terrific so badly. Like one, they made him gay for no reason. Two, he was a buffoon. Like he is one of the smartest people in the DC universe. Like he's number three. Like there's Lex Luthor, there's Batman, and then there's Mister Terrific. Now like originally Batman wasn't the second smartest, but ever since the retcon back in the 2000s, uh, of pre the pre 52 run of DC before the new 52, like Batman became like the second smartest character in the DC multiverse. And Mr. Terrific has always been known as number three, and he's always said that actually The funny thing is, Mr. Terrific said, "Well, he's like actually I only claim on Mr. Three when people give a rating of all the intellects. He said just because I don't. He said I don't want people to know exactly how smart I am. He says I just say I'm number three." But yeah, exactly, Carlton. Like it was no reason to make him gay. It wasn't even making him gay that was upset me the most. It was the fact that it followed nothing from his his uh his story. Like first of all, he wasn't the first Mr. Terrific. The first Mr. Terrific was a white guy from the golden age of comics, and the new Mr. Terrific um, took took his name and made it his own, and he became a superhero after his family was murdered. So that's when he became Mr. Terrific. So they took that part out, and he was an Olympic champion. He was like an Olympic champion in like multiple events. And but again in the Arrowverse, he was playing he was playing a sidekick to the little goofy white character, which was like a she was like a she was like a Timu version of Barbara Gordon, like which I couldn't stand. She was like this Timu version of Barbara Gordon, who was always assisting Arrow and became his wife and his girlfriend, then his wife or whatever, um, and got paralyzed like Barbara Gordon. And he was like her sidekick. I'm like, what? What?
because I was like in the comic books and in the Justice League animated series, he has led the Justice League, and he's not, and he can fight. Like making him like always getting beat up in the Arrowverse show was goofy. Like how is he getting beat up? He should be a better fighter than the Green Arrow, but he was always like the one that need to be saved. He was the one who had to assist Arrow's girlfriend, whatever her name is. I forgot. I couldn't stand her character. Um, and the dumbest thing about him was he would have a big afro, and then when he put on his uniform, his hair would be corn rolled. I'm like, did they not have any black writers for the Arrowverse? I was like, why the fuck does he start off with an afro, and then when they go into battle, he corn rolls his hair? I was like, so that's obviously his superpowers, that he can corn roll his hair in 5 minutes. Because I was like, this is obviously written by white people if they think black people can just corn roll an afro in like 5 minutes. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, that was the dumbest shit ever on the Arrowverse. And I hated Black Lightning too. Yeah, he's in magical cornrows. He definitely has a magical cornrows. That shit was dumb. And they made black characters in the Arrowverse so fucking corny. Black Lightning was so fucking corny. I hated that superhero. Like, first of all, it's a running trope that like most black superheroes have some sort of lightning power. Even Miles Morales, the Black Spider-Man, has lightning powers. He can do electricity. Um, and the fact that he calls himself any black superhero with the name Black in their superhero type in their superhero name, I hate. The only reason, the only one who gets a pass is Black Panther because he's literally the first black superhero, and two, Black Panther describes the very name of the type of animal, right? The Black Panther. But yeah, it's a running superhero trope that most black superheroes have electrical powers. So I always hated Black Lightning for that because I thought he was fucking corny for that shit. On top of that, like in the comic books, in the he lives in a ghetto area of Metropolis, but in the TV show, he's in a whole different city and state. And then they give his daughters all these. They make his daughters stronger than he is. Like it's so fucking corny. I hated that show so much. And then it gets worse. So John Spartan, Arrow's sidekick, the black guy, John. It was John Diggle, but then he becomes the Spartan. A very like he's not even a C level. He's like a D level hero in DC Comics called the Spartan. Um, like every year in the Arrowverse, they would do like a crossover with all their shows, like the Flash, Green Arrow, Black Lightning, Supergirl, and then like eventually like Lois and Clark, right? And so every time they did these little crossovers, the characters would interact with each other. So when John Diggle first interacted with Black Lightning, for some reason, some dumbass writer decided that they're gonna have them keep saying by any means necessary. It was so fucking corny. He said that's because of the mythological African god Sango. They controlled thunder and lightning. I didn't know that. If that's true, then it's still corny though. But no, so I don't know if you watched. Like I used to watch the Arrowverse religiously until it just got so fucking bad. I just stopped watching it. Like I watched up to like the third season of Black Lightning. I watched all the way up to like the sixth season of Arrow, the fourth season of the Flash, 4 seasons of the Flash, or no, 5 seasons of the Flash, 6 seasons of Arrow, um, like 3 seasons of Black Lightning. Couldn't watch Supergirl at all. That just was some feminist bullshit. That was just horrible. Um, Only watched one episode of Lois and Clark, which actually wasn't bad from the episode I watched. I just didn't want to see a TV version of Superman while there was like a Superman in the movies. But anyway, every year they would do like a crossover between all the different shows. And so when John Diggle finally met Black Lightning, every time like something happened in the show, they kept saying by any means necessary, and they would look at each other like, I'm like, what the fuck, corny shit? I was like, who wrote this shit? Why, when the two black men are bonding with each other, they had to keep saying by any means necessary? That was so fucking corny. I'm like, come on, man. I was like, do y'all not have black writers? Like this, I was like, I swear, whoever wrote the three times they said by any means necessary, and this was in only they said this in one episode of the show. This wasn't like multiple episodes. This was like in one episode. They said it like three times during the during the series crossover event. And I'm like, a black person didn't write this. I was like, this had to have been like some white liberal, some woke white liberals writing this shit, thinking they're down with the black power because they're having the two black superheroes saying by any means necessary. I'm pretty sure I I don't say I want to say I'm the only one that remembers that, but probably the only other people who remember this happening would probably be people on Reddit, and I don't read Reddit, other than like every once in a while I'll go to Reddit about a like an anime question or something like that. But other than that, I really don't use Reddit that much. I think it's pointless. But dude, it was so corny. Like Black Lightning and John Diggle, they'd be like, "Yeah, by any means necessary." Like, what? Go do something, guys. Like that was so whack. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna go. But like I said, those are my criticisms of the summer lineup of superhero movies. If you guys, if I missed the movie, let me know. But like I said, I'm starting with the Thunderbolts that just came out. Uh, I guess this week. It came out this week, and like I said, people are trying to say the Thunderbolts is a good movie because it tackles mental health issues. Because for those who don't know, the Sentry is like this all powerful. He's basically like a Marvel Superman, but he's much more powerful than Superman. But his beginnings is basically he drinks a super soldier serum, which is like an amped up version of the version that Captain America drank, but it made him like this all powerful being. Um, but because he's mentally unstable, all his mental instability became a separate version of himself called the Void. And then you also got the depression that Yelena is facing from the death of Black Widow and feeling all alone and stuff like that. And it's like, cool, yeah, that's cool that they address mental health issues, but that alone is not going to make it a good movie to go see just because it tackles mental health issues. I mean, like I said, Thor: Love and God tackled mental health issues too, but it did a piss poor job of it because they kept putting jokes in parts of the movie where it was like serious stuff that Thor was dealing with, the loss of his world, his family, his girlfriend dying of cancer, and he can't do anything about it. Like a a character who's going around destroying all the gods because his own god decided that he didn't care about the people he was made to protect, which was his, and he was literally the last of his kind. So he found a sword that could kill all the gods. Like if this was done by a better director than Taiki Waititi, that could have been Thor: Love and Thunder could have been a really good movie tackling all those issues. But Taiki Waititi is an overrated filmmaker. He's not that good. He really isn't. He made one good film, which was Thor Ragnarok, and even still, they made Thor into this jokey character, even though he's like a serious superhero in most of the films. But in any case, so Thunderbolts, like I said, is problematic because it's just a, a by the numbers team up superhero film. Yes, it tackles some mental health issues, but again, that doesn't make it a great movie to go see. Um, because I seen this Filipino film critic saying, "Well, you guys who rated the movie low are just lucky that you never had to deal with trauma and mental health problems, or you would have liked the movie more." I'm like, that's bullshit, dude. I was like, first of all, I've had clinical depression for decades. I said that seeing other people deal with depression is not going to make something a good movie. That's just bullshit. I was like, that's good that you could project yourself into that film, but for most of us, no, we're not going to watch some slop just because it deals with issues that are personal to us. That's dumb. If that's the case, then I would think every movie dealing with black issues should be good, but no, I don't. um, but let me see if I'm missing comments again because I probably am. Every time I don't see the chat room moving, that's usually because my chat room froze. But in any case, uh, but then the other problem with the Thunderbolts is, like I said, it's just a and I'm literally tired of the evil Superman trope. Like, how many times are we gonna do an evil Superman? Like now in the Sentry isn't always bad in the comics. Sometimes he's good, but again, he's mentally unstable because again in the comics, I don't know how exactly how they tackle it in the film, but in the comics, the character who's given the super soldier serum to become the Sentry was schizophrenic, right? And all his mental instability becomes turns into what's called the void. Um, but again, I'm tired of the evil Superman thing. It's just played out. Uh, then on top of that, no one. These are all second, second string and third string characters. Like I don't care about these second string and third string heroes. No one cares about Yelena or the red whatever, like the Russian, the Russian Captain America. They completely made him into a goober in that movie. Like in the comic books, you know, the Red Guardian was not a goober. He wasn't this idiot. I don't know why but again, the MCU they had to emasculate him, but the Red Guardian was a serious like character in the Marvel comics, but they decided to emasculate him and turn him into a goober. No one cares about the chick that can vanish and stuff. Um, that came out of the Ant Man and Wasp movie. No one cares about her. No one cares about the John Walker, the failed Captain America. Um, who else? The only character I think people would care about is Bucky. Is Bucky Barnes. And I don't know how major his role is in the movie, but they're basically like a DC answer to the Suicide Squad. But again, at the end of the movie, they become the new Avengers. So we'll see how that goes. But and most of them are going to be in the Avengers Doomsday film, I believe, except for Taskmaster. That's the other person I was forgetting. Taskmaster. She was actually the daughter of the guy who used to run the Black Widows, but he altered her mind so that she became like this basically this automaton that he could control at will and that she could replicate anybody's powers, which is nothing like the Taskmaster of the comic books, who was one, a male, and two, he wasn't this mindless like character. Like he was he was like an assassin for hire, and he could replicate anyone's powers and skill set. The only person he used to have a problem with replicating was Deadpool, because Deadpool is insane and is completely unpredictable. When he tried to replicate Deadpool's skill set, it actually messed him up. But other than that, like Taskmaster was one of the most like cunning and deadly characters in the Marvel comics, and they turned him into this pointless female character in the Black Widow film, and she returns in Thunderbolts. So suffice to say, she gets killed in the Thunderbolts. Another spoiler alert for you guys: Taskmaster gets killed in Thunderbolts, and then the remaining characters rebrand themselves the New Avengers. And in the beginning of the movie, they meet each other because basically the character played by Elaine Bennis from Seinfeld, she has them all meet up together so that they could kill each other off, because she now has to answer to the U.S. government for everything that went awry in the previous films and TV shows. Because she was in, was she in Secret Invasion? No, she wasn't in Secret Invasion. She was in the Black Panther sequel, Wakanda Forever. She was in, she was in Black Widow, and she was in one of the other TV shows. Oh, and she was in I think she was she in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yeah, yeah, she was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So now she has to answer for all the stuff that she did. So she set them up in the beginning of the movie by having them all meet somewhere where they were supposed to delete each other, and they decide to team up. But whatever. So that movie is whack. Then Fantastic Four is going to be whack because again, despite how they try to use a bunch of '60s nostalgia, first of all, they changed Mr. Fantastic where he's more uncertain of himself. He's less masculine than the Mr. Fantastic of the comic books. And they used that beta Pedro Pascal to play him. Mr. Fantastic didn't have a Mexican mustache. I'm sorry how that sounds, but whatever. Johnny Storm is now no longer a hot headed womanizer. He's now more in touch with his feelings, whatever the fuck that means. Um, and Sue Storm is now like the girl boss. Like she's sort of like the heart of the team in this new version. And Silver Surfer is now Shala Ball instead of Norrin Red, where Shala Ball was originally the girlfriend of Norrin Red. Now, because in the alternate universe they had Shala Ball as the Silver Surfer, the MCU decided to make her the Silver Surfer in their version of Fantastic Four for reasons. And finally to Superman, where we're getting a potential plot leak that one of the way Lex Luthor tries to uh, damage Superman's by ruining his reputation by starting a online troll campaign where he hires a bunch of monkeys to to endlessly mock Superman and use the hashtag super shit to to um to ridicule him, as well as an alleged joke where they make fun of the Snyder fans. Carl says they'll have Thing wearing a BLM shirt in the movie. Well, funny you mention that. Actually, the Thing can dress well in the I think in some versions of the comics, and I think in the movie too, because he often deals with body dysmorphia. Again, the Filipino film critic pointed this out because he's all on this mental health journey. I hate when people act like they're the only one dealing with mental health. Like, dude, okay, good, you're dealing with mental health, but that doesn't make for a good movie just because you can project your own per- personal issues into the movie. I was like, you're acting like this, you're acting like you have to like something because it personifies a part of you. No, I was like, I've dealt with clinical depression for years. That doesn't mean I'm going to like the Thunderbolts. Sorry, I don't care. Like, merely seeing someone go through the same issues as me is not going to make me identify with the movie and rate it a good movie. When it's a superhero film, I'm going to see a superhero film, not a film about someone's mental health issues. If I want to see that, I'll go see a movie specifically on that. Again, there's a lot of psychological trauma that happens with superheroes because of the nature of what they do. Peter Parker is one of the best known examples of someone who goes through a lot of psychological trauma, not to mention financial hardship. that's part of the Spider-Man mythos, is him battling his personal demons, um, with, having this burden of greater responsibility because of his powers, while still wanting to live the life of a teenager slash young man, have a relationship, make money, go on to college. He wants to become a scientist, but in most versions he doesn't end up becoming a scientist. He maybe becomes, either in one version, a science teacher, and another version, he in the newer version he becomes like a business entrepreneur or whatever. But that's realistic. But again, he deals with trauma. Batman deals with trauma. So like, this guy, like I said, he's talking bullshit. Like, anyone who knows the Batman mythos knows that Batman struggles with psychological trauma. that's part of that's part of his mythos, that he has depression because he witnessed his parents unalived in front of him as a child, and he feels guilty for asking his parents to take him to the movies that night when they were unalived. He deals with that. So like, this guy acting like the Thunderbolts was the first time they tackled mental health issues in a superhero film. I'm like, have you not watched Batman in the past 30 years? Have you not watched the original Spider-Man run from the 2000s? Like, the Thunderbolts are not the first time they tackle mental health issues in superheroes. Now, what most people get wrong, Carlton, is they think Batman has PTSD. He doesn't have PTSD. He just has clinical depression, which is, it shows in how he manifests. Like, he's sullen and moody. He stays to himself. He doesn't take much delight in things, even though he's a billionaire. He's a multi-billionaire. So, but he doesn't take most much delight in most things. He gets the most delight out of helping people, um, when he's fighting crime. That's what he gets the most pleasure out of. Because every time he saves someone, it's like him saving, being able to save his parents. So to act like the Thunderbolts was like the first film to tackle mental health issues, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, that's like you're just using that as an excuse to make people want to like the movie. It's like, that shit's not going to work. And then he was like, and they dealing with, he said, people who didn't have to deal with psychological trauma or having an inner demon they battle. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. You don't think people like Batman and Wolverine deals with mental health issues. On top of that, he's been dealing with it for like 200 years. The man is over 200 years old. He's been around since the Civil War. He's dealt with, like, anyone knows the story of Wolverine. He's dealt with mental health issues for the longest of time. So it's like, Thunderbolts aren't doing anything new. Wolverine, Spider-Man, Batman. The By the way, these are all three of my favorite characters who all have mental health issues. This is nothing new. So act like the Thunderbolts like is so good because it tackles mental health issues. Get the fuck out of here. Like, all these other characters dealt with that sort of stuff too. Like Captain America, like the a lot of the Boy Scout heroes like Captain America and Superman don't deal with that sort of stuff. But even like Captain America had to deal with some issues, because like, you're talking about a man who's been frozen in ice for like 80 years. So his whole world is gone to him. Everyone he loved, except for he finds out that his old sidekick Bucky Barnes is now alive and now an assassin for Hydra. But it's like, he has to deal with being in a world that's he no longer recognizes. I mean, they explored this in the Winter Soldier, right? They explored this in the Winter Soldier. Like, they didn't go too much into it because Steve takes everything on the chin. He doesn't. He's not a emo, moody, sulking person like Bruce Wayne is. but again, Bruce Wayne has reason to be like, if you're when you see your parents unalive in front of you when you're 8 years old, it's gonna take a toll on you. I mean, the same thing similarly happened to Dick Grayson. The difference is Dick Grayson has someone to be there for him when that happened. Bruce Wayne was there for Dick Grayson to make sure he didn't suffer the trauma that he did as a result. Carlin says Wolverine got it really bad. Imagine cultivating all your kids, family, and friends for generations on generations. Yeah, that's like I said. Like, I mean, shout out to the guy Jericho, but he don't know what the fuck he's talking about when he's acting like the Thunderbolts are the only ones to tackle mental health issues of superheroes. Like, anyone knows the struggles of Logan, the struggles of Bruce Wayne, and the struggles of Peter Parker. All these guys are dealing with serious trauma. And again, these are all three of my favorite superheroes, so I can relate to them because of their psychological trauma. But their psychological trauma in itself is not going to make their movies good. It's because of this. It's because of the characters, the writing, and the storyline, and all those sort of things that's going to make a good movie. It's not just, oh well, this superhero has mental illness, so that's going to make for a good character. That's going to make for a good movie. No, like, that's dumb. It's just dumb. It's like his reasoning sounds like that of a teenager, and the guy's in his 30s. You're too old to be like acting like something is deep just because it deals with psychological issues when like literally most of the super. Or look at the again going back to the Snyderverse. In the Snyderverse, Zack Snyder, being an edge lord, decided to make every single character in the Justice League gloomy, except for Wonder Woman, and even she was dealing with issues. But like Zack Snyder is an edge lord where he made every character uh, moody, and the only character in the Justice League that's supposed to be moody is Batman. He made fucking Cyborg moody. I'm like, how the fuck you make Cyborg moody? Like Cyborg was not a gloomy character, but he made Zack Snyder being an edge lord. He made Cyborg gloomy. He took the superhero who represents hope and happiness for everyone else and made him an emo. He make How do you make Superman into an emo character? Like, he's the one character you're not supposed to make emo or moody is Superman, but he even made Superman moody. That's why, like I said, these Zack Snyder fans are just weird because there was nothing. There was nothing like Zack Snyder was an edge lord. He took every character that was like an aspirational hero and said, "I'm gonna make them kill." He was like, "Well, they always say the one rule about Batman is he doesn't kill." So he's like, "Guess what I'm going to do in my movie? I'm going to make him kill." I'm like, "So you're just an edge lord. You're not clever. You're not a film auteur. You're just an edge lord." Then he did the same thing with with Superman with him killing Zod. It's like, why are you doing that to these characters? Like, they're superheroes because they choose not to kill. Like, most of the biggest superheroes have a no kill rule. Spider-Man has a no kill rule. Daredevil has a no kill rule. Batman has a no kill rule. Spider-Man has a no. I mean, Superman has a no kill rule. Wonder Woman does for the most part, but she did once kill Maxwell Lord. Not in the movies, but in the comic books, she killed Maxwell Lord. She snapped his neck to keep him from using his mental powers on Superman to kill Batman. And they were still shunned her for that, even though she only did it because he was mind controlling Superman to kill Batman. So she snapped Maxwell Lord's neck. But other than that, for the most part, Wonder Woman doesn't kill. He's a turned Batman into a lion. Batman was a fascist lunatic in Batman versus Superman. Remember, he was branding people, and when they got branded, when they went to prison, that was the that was the signal for the other prisoners to murder that inmate. Like, if you got branded by Batman, that was a signal to the other prisoners that you hurt kids so they could kill you. I'm like, what the hell? And like, he literally murdered hundreds of people in that movie. Every time he was shooting people with the Batmobile, or if the Batmobile hit someone, that was death. And when he went into the warehouse, he was definitely killing people. Like, he gutted people with his gauntlet. He slung a box, like a heavy ass box, into someone's head. And then the the ultimate edition of Batman versus Superman, they showed all the blood when that box hit the guy, or the guy who shot him in his right in the Kevlar, and then Batman just stood up and glowered at him. Then all of a sudden you hear something go, and you knew that Batman just killed him with the gauntlet. Like, I'm telling you, my friends and I, we were cracking up. Like, we actually rewound that whole part, the warehouse, when he went to go save Martha, just to count, just to like do a number, do his body count. It was a large body count. And the excuse was given, well, because Joker had murdered Robin, that's when uh, the Batman had lost his way and uh, stop using his no kill rule. I was like, then he's no longer Batman. He said, I bet Captain America was like, hey, those coloreds can drink from our fountain now. uh, uh, well, Steve Rogers was always like more progressive for his time. Like, he, in his little superhero, well, not his little squadron that helped him fight during World War II, had like multi ethnic characters. So there was like a black person, I think like a native or Asian person. So he was always pretty like, as long as you was down for the cause, he didn't care who you were, man, woman, black, white, whatever. Steve was like, if you down for the cause, we're brothers. That's Steve. That's why Falcon became such a good friend to him. But anyway, that's it, guys. That's my criticisms. I'm trying to remember if there's another superhero film coming out. I don't think so, because Doomsday comes out 2026. So think fan- I think Fantastic Four might be the last Marvel film of 2025, and then the rest of the Marvel stuff will be on Disney Plus. Like, they got TV. Like, they're still supposed to release Ironheart with Riri Williams that no one cares about, because that movie, again, that TV show was made 2 years ago. It's just been sitting on the shelf for like 2 years. Some said 3 years, but I think it's been sitting on the shelf for like at least 2 years now. Um, and some other projects for Disney Plus. But that's it. It's late. I'm gonna go, guys. Thank you again for the super chat from my new follower, Scream Mob. Excuse me, Sneak Mob. I think Yeshua fucked all the way off. um, he's gonna call me schizo when he literally didn't realize that this whole live stream was literally about superhero films for this summer, and my criticisms of it. That was like, I'm not being schizo. That was like literally the topic. That is like, I'm not schizo. He's just an idiot. So there you got it, folks. Um, I'm out. If anyone else think I missed something or wanted to add to it, just leave it in the comment section, please, if you will. If you haven't already, please give me a like, share, and a subscribe. And if anyone wants to contribute, like Sneak Mob just did, you can give me a super thanks, or you can go to the links in the description of the video, where you can find my Cash App and my buy me a coffee link. All right, guys. See you later, Carlton. Take care, man.